lots to talk about. But let's get back to domestic British politics. Now, there have been a couple of reports coming out of the Tory party conference this week and elsewhere in the papers about a possible plot to remove Liz Truss before Christmas and replace her with, yes, Rishi Sunak, who didn't go to the Tory party conference, chose instead to go hiking near his constituency in Yorkshire, and of course warned about the very economic consequences during the leadership campaign that have now taken place, with the markets and the pound very much reacting against that. Part of the anti-growth coalition, if you like. Let's go to Adam Bienkov. He's the political editor of the Byline Times. Good morning, Adam, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What credence should be placed in this supposed plot to replace Liz Truss with Rishi Sunak?
Well, I've just returned from Conservative Party conference, and it's undoubtedly the case there is a lot of discussion about Liz Truss's future, and the consensus is that things can't carry on as they are. Nobody expects that she'll be allowed to go into the next general election if the polls are anything like they are at the moment. But there isn't really much agreement on what the party should do next. There was some talk at conference about potentially forcing her out and having a change of leader. But in order for that to happen, she would need to agree to step down. And one of the suggestions in the papers today is that the sort of men in grey suits could go and convince her to step aside. I think that's pretty unlikely that she would.
She doesn't sound like the type who would suddenly give up, especially after a month or so.
No, well, her whole sort of political identity is based on the idea that she knows what she wants and she says what she thinks. So I think it'd be very unlikely that she would do that. But the polls are pretty dire, and they don't seem to be getting any better over the course of the last week. It's hard to see how things can continue. As we see, and members of her cabinet are starting to become incredibly rebellious. We've seen briefings from Suella Braverman over immigration, now Jacob Rees-Mogg on energy, and former cabinet ministers like Nadine Dorries interviewing the Times today, criticising her. So her authority, particularly after her U-turn on the 45p rate, has really been severely eroded. And these things can get out of control. So, is it possible that we could see a change of leader before Christmas? Absolutely, it is possible. It's just difficult to see how that could actually happen and what would be the method through which that would occur.
So the knives seem to be out for her, not so much stabbing her in the back, but stabbing her in the front from some of her supposedly closest political allies.
Yes, well, it's remarkable to see the level of disagreement that we saw just at Conservative Party conference over policies, some of which hadn't even yet been agreed. On the uprating benefits in line with inflation. Penny Mordaunt speaking out against that. I mean, it's quite remarkable.
It's a free-for-all, right? So if you disagree with the Prime Minister, you say so, there's no discipline as such, and it's government by backbench MPs to some extent.
I mean, a lot of it, I think, is down to the fact that she never really had the support of her parliamentary party in the first place. In the first round of voting, she came third. And I think it's akin to what happened when Jeremy Corbyn became leader, and to a lesser extent Ed Miliband as well. When you become leader without the support of your parliamentary backbenches, it is very hard to have that authority. And Liz Truss, even more so, I think, has really struggled because of that. And obviously the events of the past week with the mini budget and the effect on the economy has made that a lot worse.
But Jeremy Corbyn led his party in 2 elections. One was rather successful and the other one was totally disastrous. She might not even get that privilege.
Indeed, yes. He and Jeremy Corbyn did actually get somewhat of a sort of honeymoon period when he became leader, certainly compared to Liz Truss. She's had no honeymoon period. In fact, if anything, it's been the opposite. Her ratings and the ratings of her party have severely crashed since she became leader.
But do you think there's a serious, plan, call it a plot, call it what you like, to replace her with Rishi Sunak, her big opponent, obviously, in the summer? And how would that actually work out? Because the 1922 committee of grey men in grey suits, with rather grey faces at the moment, I imagine, could actually change the rules, couldn't they?
Well, it would need to change the rules, yes. So Liz Truss technically is safe for the next year. So they would need to change those rules. Would the Conservative MPs really fancy going into another protracted leadership contest after the party
Probably not.
has already delivered a leader who they didn't approve of in the first place. So they would want to try and have some sort of acclamation in which that she agreed to stood down, and the MPs amongst themselves agreed somebody who would then become possibly, would enough MPs agree Rishi Sunak? It was possible. He was the most popular choice among MPs last time. But I'm not sensing as of yet that there is that consensus on the Conservative benches. But that could change if things continue to go south for Truss and the government.
And of course, and just briefly, other names have been mentioned as possible caretakers should there be a coup. One of them is Michael Gove,
yes.
Kit Malthouse, for instance.
Yes, I mean, look, there's, as we saw at the recent leadership contest, there's no shortage of people who would like the job. And Michael Gove, as ever, has definitely been on manoeuvres. He interviewed him in the Financial Times today as well. So I don't think there'll be any shortage, but I think the Conservative MPs don't really want another big, wide open contest. I think they would really want somebody who they're clear collectively should take the job. And I think Sunak probably is the most closely fits that, but I'm not sure he's quite got the level of support that he would need for that to happen.
In 10 seconds, did you meet anyone at the Tory party conference who thought that a new leader or divine intervention might actually prevent them not losing the next election?
No, I mean, I've been attending these party conferences for the best part of 10 years now, and it's usually quite a sort of jubilant, sort of boosterish atmosphere at these occasions. There was a real almost sort of depression among Conservative members and activists. There weren't many MPs there either. And the activists in fringe meetings were openly talking about the fact that they're likely to be out of government. And more importantly, they were suggesting that maybe this wouldn't be a bad thing and we could refresh ourselves. And when governing parties start talking like that, you know that the game is likely up.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? The change in language. Got to leave it there. Adam Bienkov, political editor of Byline Times, thank you so much for coming on. And after the break, we're going to talk about